But 20 years in the Legion will make a boy man. 20 years in the Legion and they will give you land. 20 years in the Legion, you'll always have a home. 20 years in the legions of Rome.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second series of How Shit Works, where we're covering the peerages. Tonight, the Pelican. Tonight, we'll discuss what happens in the Meridian Pelican meetings, their rules, how they run. We'll talk about what goes on in there, what people discuss, and maybe we'll get to bust some myths along the way. I am one of your hosts, Graf Ulrich. I'm a knight, a pelican, and a royal peer. Tonight, I'm joined by, as always, by Meridia's own Knight of Kittens. Oh, crap. That's right. Eric's not feeling well tonight, so he'll be with us next week. But tonight, I get the joy of being joined by one of my absolute best friends, Duke Thomas Blackmoore.
Hi, I'm not Eric, but very importantly, I do love cats. I am a Duke, a Knight, a Pelican, and a Laurel, and I'm honored to be able to fill in for Eric as he's not feeling well tonight. I get the honor of introducing tonight's guests and subject matter experts, Dame Annora Draper and Sir Conal McDale.
A wise and influential knight.
Hi.
Care to tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Dame Annora?
My name is Annora Draper.
I think we're having a little technical difficulties getting him into the room.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Am I here? I feel like I'm here.
You're both
Are
here.
you sure? Yeah, we're both here. We're both here.
All right.
So I am Annora Draper. I am a member of the Order of the Pelican and have been for the last 3.5 years. And I have been in Meridies for most of my time in the SCA. I moved here from Ethelmark in 2010.
Well, I'm Conal McDale. Due to a high school actress girlfriend, I found the SCA in 1983. Participated till about 84 and then came back in 87. I was squired to Richard Rafin in 89, knighted in 93, and then was made a Pelican in 2002. So I've been here for a while, but deep down, I'm still the same dorky 17-year-old.
I think we're all the same dorks that we were when we joined, except for maybe Annora.
I was kidding.
No.
I'm really just 12, but go ahead.
No, trust me. I'm a dork as much as anyone else.
As you'll see through the humor tonight, I think we're all about 12, maybe 16. All right, so welcome both of you to the show. Thomas has apparently disappeared on us for a second. Thank you all for being here. We're very lucky to have you. Tonight's words for our drinking game are Delegate, brought to you by Dame Annora. Bogart, brought to you by Sir Conal. And Service, brought to you by Duke Thomas, who would like to kill me. For the record, tonight I am drinking rum and Coke. So I am, as promised, drinking booze. As always, we'd like to thank Between Two Peers for allowing us to become a licensed franchisee of their drinking game. It makes the show so much more fun.
So, Conal and Annora, we hope you got to a chance to watch the previous shows. If so, was there anything you thought we missed that you would like to add?
I think the previous shows have been doing a bang-up job of answering a lot of questions, and quite honestly, after last episode with the Laurel, I wondered if Mistress Stephanie left Conal and I anything to talk about.
You can make stuff up. No one will know.
She was very thorough.
She was.
So I've actually got one, and maybe it was covered. I've watched some of the shows, some more in depth than others. But I think one thing I've not seen covered is that when you're in a peerage meeting, and I'm not exaggerating this, like church or public service groups or things like that, you're sitting with a group of people who right then and there are trying to be the best people they can. It is a really positive experience. I mean, certainly we have disagreements, we have arguments, we have people who, when they talk, we're going to raise an eyebrow and go, please hurry. But in general, you got a bunch of people who are really trying to do the best they can for that order, for that kingdom, and for the people who are in the order of the kingdom and who might be admitted to the order. I, I'm not exaggerating this at all. It's true in the knighthood. It's true in the Pelican. Don't know about the laurels. I hear they're carnivorous flesh eaters, but that's what I've encountered in the other orders.
Maybe a bit.
Yeah, I have to agree with what Sir Conal is saying. Even when the people who are speaking are disagreeing, peerage orders are some of the most civil and respectful conversations that I think I have ever experienced.
So I know that sometimes they become heated.
Yes.
Heated, yes, but I mean, I can count on one hand the number of times in 1993, almost 30 years where, I have seen something become uncivil. One hand.
I'll take that. I once saw a chair thrown in a Trimarian one. I mean, it was thrown for the benefit of those of us who were there from out of kingdom so we could see them throw a chair. But there was a chair thrown, and I want that in there. So you have any other notes for us? All right. So before we get to what happens in the Pelicans meetings, I mentioned last week that laurels have specialties. You got the costume laurels and the dance laurels, etc. Well, I got some emails and some messages this week that would, because I said that knights and orders of defense and Pelicans didn't have those. I should stand here and say I stand corrected. Apparently, there are Pelicans who got Pelican for their work as autocrats or their work as officers and other things, and they consider themselves a Pelican of those tracks. So is that something that you noticed? And what would you say the path was that each of you pursued to get here? The Pelican, that is, not on the show. I know how that happened.
I know how that happened too. Annora, would you like to go? I'm pretty much going to defer to you every time.
Oh, why, thank you. This is definitely going to be one of those interesting shows. We have 3 knights and a lady. So my experience is it's a little bit somewhere down the middle road because I did autocrat and I did hold officer positions. So for me, I don't necessarily split those two into different paths. To me, it's leadership and service. And I do know that we have, nice catch. I do know that we do also have those who have been elevated for very specific things that they have done. Within the last year, even we have had somebody. No, I think at this point it's 2 years because we're still meeting in person. We had someone who was recognized specifically for his service, and that's my second one, in the archery fields. And that's what he focused on.
Right. I pretty much echo what Annora said. I have seen more general service Pelicans. And I think when you see a general service Pelican, you're going to be looking at somebody who probably has done a lot of autocrating, feastcrating, and maybe run some sort of kingdom office. But especially in these more recent years, we've seen more specialized Pelicans. I think that's okay. I mean, Master William de Montague who was Kingdom Seneschal in Atlanta. He was here for a long while. One of the questions he used to ask in the circle was, how has this person directly impacted the society at large? Not just Kingdom, not just local. And by the way, you're going to see that kind of service, Kingdom and local, from people who are made Pelicans. But it was a question where, right? Sorry, hang on. Fat grandbaby coffee mug. And at the time, you would have had to have had something that impacted maybe corporate, maybe a service that spanned a large war. I did it again. Fire horse pottery. All right. But I think nowadays you can see that sort of activity we were just talking about. Apply on a virtual or internet level, and it's good, solid service. And thank God for it, because right now the SCA, if the SCA was run by Conal McDowell right now, we would all be curled up in a corner, crying ourselves to sleep and eating bonbons. But those people who are doing the online stuff, like you guys, are keeping this at least in some form of alive until the rest of us weirdos can get back out there with you.
So has your service changed any since you became Pelicans? Sorry, it was the last part of the question, Thomas. I forgot to add it in.
Okay.
Not especially in my case. I actually pulling out the Basil Hayden.
It's a
Nice
Christmas present
toy.
from one of my favorite squires.
Good squire. Very good squire. In my case, I ended up holding yet another Kingdom office, and a fairly high Kingdom office after I was elevated. So in my case, the types of activities I was doing didn't really change.
So what did we do some service and I missed it?
No, Annora had a visitor.
Whoa! Woo! Oh shit! What have you done? Anyway, my service has changed. I was elevated. Little sips. I was elevated after being Kingdom Earl Marshal Meridies, and after that point, I was actually a Deputy Society Marshal for some while, couple of years. But that was right before or during a burnout. I reached that point of life where my kid was 8 years old and he was starting to, accelerating activities in school. I know you're thinking 8, but yeah, he was robotics. He was a smart kid. And I was at the same time had encountered some stuff while Marshall. I see your comment. While Marshall, that sort of soured me on the way the SCA was at that time. So when I burned out. I came back 2012ish. I started gearing back up again. And the thing that I still did things like autocrating, which is an old term meaning event stewarding, and stuff like that, and just filled in wherever I needed to. But I really became more of a advisory role, and then I found a second passion, which was boosting up the new people in the group, trying to maintain people who come in, but nobody within the group. We had a bunch of old timers burned out like me, and I guess I felt, hi, welcome to the club. I felt like I hadn't carried my weight on trying to maintain people in the SCA, so I really made a point of trying to reach out to the new folks and do the stuff that was done for them, that was done for me when I was an idiot 17-year-old that kept me in this organization for life. So yes, changed slightly.
So before you went to your first Pelican meeting, What, if anything, were you told to expect, or did you expect from your first meeting? And did you get what you expected?
It's a lot of expectations.
I don't know that I was necessarily given a whole lot of expect this, expect that. Other than I was told, bring cookies. That is what the Pelicans do. I am, however, thinking that the Pelicans need to branch out and do a little bit more of what the Knights do, or the Laurels. Knights have got the beer, Laurels have got the mimosas. I'm liking Graf Ulrich's suggestion that we bring cider for the Pelican. I could definitely get with this particular plan.
Annora, I brought pork rinds and beer to my first meeting.
That says so much about you.
It really does. And Dame Fiona loved them, which I think says a lot about her.
It does. It does. And I don't know that I really had a whole lot of expectations actually going into the meeting. It was more a chance to finally peek behind the curtain and start experiencing what these people I had looked up to for so many years really did to steward the SCA and Meridies as a whole.
Same. I always used to say when I was a squire, man, I'd like to be called sir. I'd like to have the white belt and all that stuff. But what I really want to do is be a fly on the wall in that darn meeting. Then it was, everything was cracked up to me. But the Pelican, I guess I expected them to be a lot more severe, but it turns out we're just as big a dorks as the Knights, and thought they were all funny because most of them are pretty funny, and they like to talk. Now, my first meeting. Oh, Annora, you so missed this. My first meeting was to rewrite. It was an all day long Pelican retreat to rewrite the rules of the order, all of the rules of the order by consensus. So that was a trial under fire. Now that sounds terrible, and in fact it was. But for the first 4 or so hours, it was great, and hours 5 through 7. Tedious, but you really got to learn a lot about the people you were working with, and we're a good bunch.
Remind me again, when was that first meeting?
But just 2002-ish. Oh, did I miss a drink thing?
No, I'm just thirsty.
All right. So we get to the meeting itself. I've not actually been to a meeting yet that wasn't on Zoom, so I don't know that I count those. But we get to the meeting itself. I am a brand new Pelican. In case you don't know, folks, I am a brand new Pelican. I'm walking into my first meeting. What should I expect to see or have done to prepare myself? And how long is this actually going to go? Because we all here in Maria's, we've seen that Pelicans meeting that goes on. The crown leaves and the Pelicans just sit there. They're there and they're there. And I'm like leaving, Conal Road with me. And I'm like, it's been, I'm like sending smoke signals. It's been 4 hours, boss.
So
I'm not going to ask about what to bring because the cookies thing has already been covered. But
do we want to talk about some of the Knights meetings that have gone on and on?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think we can limit that to one peerage order.
Mm-hmm. Walking into your first meeting, you're going to see a bunch of Scadians standing around talking or sitting, or, hey, I want that seat next to you, or who's got the most comfortable seat? Is somebody already in the seat next to the door able to hightail it when they need to hightail it? So it probably looks like any other meeting that you've maybe gone to. You'll also see, the secretary standing up towards the front of the meeting, probably prepping and getting ready. The crown may already be there, or the crown may wait and come in after all of the other order members are present. So that one is kind of wait and see. One of the best things that you can do to prepare yourself is to make sure that when the secretary sends out the agenda for the meeting, read it, have an idea of what we're supposed to be talking about that day. If you've already got, as a member, access to previous meeting minutes, read those so that you know what we were talking about a meeting or two ago, because that could be business that comes up in your first meeting.
Yep, 100% all of that. Two things I would add is if you've got something negative about a candidate or something else that somebody's sponsoring, you might want to contact that person's sponsor offline to say, hey, here's this bomb I'm coming to the meeting with. That's just kind of courtesy. But that's probably not going to happen in your first meeting. But I will just add one thing about meetings running long. You are better off with a really long written agenda for a meeting than with an agenda that says we have nothing to discuss, we'll just make it up. Because those are the ones where it turns out we've all got a lot to discuss, and those will run over and probably in any peerage order.
As we covered last week, and we do for all peerage shows, we feel contractually obligated to say, this is just how things normally work here in Meridia's. Things can always be different depending upon the situation. In the past shows for the Laurel and the Chivalry, we've covered meetings come to order. There's an agenda, a secretary to run the meeting for the Crown, and there's some version of new business, candidate discussion, populist letters, etc. Are there any differences in the way the Pelicans meetings run versus what the Chivalry and Laurel said on those topics?
See, this is where having Mistress Stephanie talk last week is kind of covering everything, because not only is Mistress Stephanie a Laurel, she's also a Pelican, and she has served as the secretary of the Pelican Order. So if anyone is going to know how things run in an order, she will. Honestly, Conal, has there been anything that's been discussed so far that differs in any big way from a Pelican meeting?
No, I don't think so. Any kind of differences are really in the weeds. It's when you start doing the math and the specific rules. I know that, like the Pelican, if the secretary gets the agenda out late, we have to have a vote of confidence on the secretary, and the vote of confidence is always yes, please God, don't make us do this job. So we are confident in you. You could hand us the agenda right now before the meeting, and we're still confident enough that we don't want your job. So,
see, even as Pelicans, there are some jobs that we don't want.
That's the truth.
So, all right. So let's move on to candidate discussion then, since that's the always the fun one. Is it any different than what we talked about with the Laurel and the Chivalry? I know, the process, not necessarily what's actually discussed, but the process of the polling and the recommendation, and especially like the part where in the other two orders, mainly it's the peer that brings out their candidate. Does that still hold true for the Pelican?
I can speak to that as somebody who has noticed other associates and gone to their peers and said, hey, just want you to know so-and-so is doing a fantastic job, and when you are ready to bring them up, I'm ready to vote. I know I've done that to Conal. I cannot say anything along those lines as the one sponsoring. I've not yet done that for my associates. But that seems to be a similarity with all of the peerages that have been discussed so far, is you don't bring up someone else's associates. You talk to their peer and let the peer know, hey, why aren't we talking about your associate yet? They're just about there, or they are there, or time. Let's bring.
Yeah, and that's the way I find it works in both the what's it, the chivalry, yeah, and the Pelican. The only difference off the top of my head, if this rule is still correct, is the Pelican has a watch list where there's really no action required. And the Knights, we may have an official watch list now, but for the longest, it was just, hey, watch out for my squire so and so. But I think we're, as I see Ulrich shaking his head, I think we still don't have an official watch list. So other than that, you respect the sponsor. If it turns out there's something wrong with the sponsor, like has anybody seen so and so in 2 years? They're candidates out there doing nightly Pelican stuff, and then somebody will go hunt them down. Sometimes they make contact with them, and another sponsor takes over. It's really the same process.
So that actually brings me to the second part of that question on what about for non-associates, people who aren't particularly attached to a specific Pelican, or populist letters? Is that handled any differently?
Okay, so populist letters. Somebody is written in by a populist member who believes that this person's level of service
Oh man, dang it!
is worth being looked at. So anyone who is written in, that populist letter is read. And in my experience, it is read in the meeting so that everyone is aware, hey, we've got somebody being brought up for consideration. And usually the first order of business is, is this somebody's associate? If not, is there somebody who is willing to take on and sponsor this particular person? And then it goes off into a process of discussion about, yeah, I can take on that person. We can do some quick discussion, or let me do some research, find out a little bit more, and then come back to the order with what I found. Folks that aren't written in on a populist letter can still be brought up, even if they're not associates, or maybe they're already established peers. High multi-peers that I'm sitting here with. Usually it could be someone, say,
can still be brought up.
Say Thomas and Conal get together and decide, so-and-so has been doing some really great work. Let's go sponsor this person in the order.
We call him.
Yeah, I had a specific person in mind.
That's what Thomas does. He combs the SCA phone books for people who need to be recognized.
Yeah, Thomas seems to feel lonely as a multi-peer, so he goes out looking for other peers to bring up and add to our order.
Meridies, when you are cold and lonely in the night, remember Thomas is watching out for you.
And one might even say that Thomas likes to go out and bogart other peers.
Oh, my word!
Love y'all.
Nice an image of Conal with like 16 mugs off to the side that he's like cycling through over there.
It's 8. Firehorse pottery. I'm receiving kickbacks.
So we're fine with shameless plugs.
So, the only thing I would follow, rather than the time-honored tradition of the Pelican and the knighthood, I will not repeat everything Annora just said, except to say she's right.
Other than what we've already discussed in candidate discussions, what other subjects would we find on a Pelican agenda?
On a Pelican what?
Agenda.
Gotcha. Rules.
Rules. Rewriting the order's guidelines when things need to be updated because something has come down from a change in kingdom law or a change in corpora. Things such as, are we sponsoring a prize in this tournament, or are we sponsoring a prize in the next coronation scribal challenge? Those are business matters that will be brought up. When the secretary is looking for a deputy to pass the office along to, that will usually be something on the agenda and gives us all plenty of time to go, no, sorry, my schedule's busy. Can't, no, sorry.
100% what she said. Can I answer William Scribner's question?
Not yet.
Fine. It just played into what we were just talking about. So I won't say yes. Go ahead.
So for the record, if you ask, a question in the feed, it gets put in our feed, and we'll get to those at the end of the show. Sorry, I'm going rogue. I'm not living by your rules. Woo! Apparently not.
Conal said a keyword while you were talking, by the way.
Oh, curses. Okay, so without breaking any confidentiality, what kinds of things are brought up when we're talking about candidates? What's discussed?
Service.
And their ability to delegate?
And their ability to delegate. Yes. Good one. You bogarted my own word.
That's 3. Right quick, for the record, guys, I forgot to put this caveat in earlier. If you don't want to drink, that's fine. If you want to drink something that's not alcoholic, that's fine. We're not forcing anybody to do anything. This is all for fun.
So, yes, we look at, their resume. What have they done? Have they shown a path of growth and mastery? Ha ha ha, I'm not in the Laurel meeting. In what they are doing. And as they have taken on greater and greater responsibility, are they also demonstrating that ability to delegate? Because it's my word.
Oh.
Because we want them to be able to share their knowledge and pass that along to others, because we've all been there. Conal has even talked about burnout. We do an awful lot of work in order to get to our elevation. We want to make sure that others are learning how to do that work so that the responsibility is shared, and the ability to autocrat, the ability to feastcrat, the ability to be a kingdom seneschal, to hold whatever office is taught to other people, so that it's not just this small group of people continuing to do the work over and over again. We also, as with any other peerage, we look at PLQs. Is this somebody who carries themselves with courtesy and humility? Is this somebody who knows how to approach the crown? Is this somebody who knows how to approach a newcomer? Is this someone who knows how to, if they were dropped off in the middle of nowhere, could they create another SCA group based on what they know or what they know how to find?
That's my favorite one.
Right. So all of that goes into what we are considering and looking at.
Are you pointing? Are you going to say
You're
what
muted,
she said?
Conal. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My Great Danes had identified a danger and were letting me know about it. Everything she just said, and I can't cover it much better. I think we also cover kind of whether or not the person's a jerk to other people along the way. And we try to say that as nice as we can, but that's part of it. And if they've got a pattern of choking really big, just one of the things I wanted to make sure I mentioned in this was, if I had any kind of Pelican mentor, because I was a free range, service dude, it was Duchess Caroline. Service.
Again, thanks.
Well, what would
Okay.
Caroline do? And she used to say, sometimes the best form of service is no service. And what that meant was, okay, hang on, two. It was one big one. I'm totally sure it was two. What that meant was, are there times when you've signed up for something that you didn't want to and can't do? Because at a certain point, when you choke that, if you haven't bailed out of that, if you haven't sought help, if you haven't picked up somebody who can mentor you through that, then a week before this thing is due is worse service than if you had just not signed up for it to begin with. So that's just an unnecessary add-on, providing more uses of the word service.
No, I actually agree with you. I think that goes along with what we talk about with can they delegate? Being able to ask for help is just as important. And yeah, we're up to like 5.
Tasty.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you weren't going to continue answering after you finished drinking, since we were all playing catch up on that one.
I was just about to check with our host overlords if we had answered your question well enough.
Yeah. I had actually mentioned that I wanted to bring something up, but you brought it up for me, which was the knowing when to say, I need help, knowing when to say, I can't do this. That's actually critically important. And so I think that gets overlooked so often. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
So may I add something to that? One of the first indications that you may be in trouble is if you didn't want to take the damn job in the first place. And the second indication is along the path to the job, you really, really, really don't want to continue doing the job. That's probably the time at which to say, I am in trouble. Whether or not that is to reach out to somebody and say, hey, please make me realize the importance of doing this, or, please help me bail out of this. But, just get out quickly, get out well. And if you know somebody who can do it, that looks even better.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past week, we've covered what Corpora requires of all peers and laurels. All peers and laurels. I'm not sure why that's phrased that way, but
Oh, I
Last
know
week
why.
we covered laurels. So when we did this, we actually forgot to cover the section on the Shiv. We covered all peers, and then we covered it on the laurels, but we didn't actually cover what's required of the chivalry.
Fair enough.
We'll do that in a bonus show.
But here's what Corpora says about the requirements, specifically for Pelican. The Order of the Pelican. I. Members of the Order of the Pelican may choose to swear fealty, but are not required to do so. The candidate must have attained the standard of service to the society and any of its branches equal to that of his or her prospective peers, which is above and beyond the normal expected of members of the society. How many did I miss in there?
1.
Oh, you're good.
The Corpora requirements of peerage we've covered in the past: good member of the society, know a dance, play a period game, do service, understand combat, the support of the SCA. Is that brought up? How does that discussion go?
I honestly cannot think of a discussion recently where we pull out Corpora and go over a checklist of do they do this? Do they do this? Do they do this? Which is interesting that it's being covered so many times. I'll be interested to see, do the peerage meetings reflect, all right, do they meet Corpora before we even talk to them? I think a lot of what we tend to focus on is level of service. Are they able to delegate? What are their PLQs? And is this somebody who is going to represent our order and the SCA?
So yeah, you'd think an an order full of rules types would bring that
Right.
up, but I'm with Annora. I don't recall ever hearing that the corpora references, but we do have one multi-class Pelican who consistently brings up, do they know, are they familiar with society combat, because he's read the rules. So
I've heard a few Pelicans who are who do that sort of thing. I think I know who you're talking about, and I've seen a couple.
yeah.
So.
So that's a good point. That's probably something we should be doing. We do, going back to your question about whether or not there are, Pelicans who are along certain tracks. Yeah, of course we are. And I think once once we see somebody, hit that specialized track, the level we're looking for, we probably do. And generally with Pelicans, it takes a while to hit that. So you've probably gotten most of the PLQs along the way, unless you're absolutely atrocious or obnoxious.
All right. Well, hopefully, apparently I wasn't atrocious or obnoxious. So, I mean, that depends who you ask, I guess.
You weren't atrocious.
There you go.
You're opinionated, which some would consider to be a synonym of obnoxious.
You are not wrong.
No, I'm not.
So for the record, if service delegation or Bogart is brought up, I'm 3 drinks ahead, and I have sent my mug off to be refilled. Sorry. So we've covered the procedures and how to bring a candidate up. Let's discuss all the requirements. All that's over. What's the process for recommendation? What happens if it's positive or negative? What if the Crown disagrees either way?
All right. So having recently reviewed our guidelines, because we are in the midst of updating them, according to our guidelines, once the poll results are finalized, the secretary says, your majesties, your highnesses, if the heirs are present, we recommend or we don't recommend this candidate. And then it is up to the sponsor or sponsors to talk with the Crown about, is this announced immediately? Do we do a writ and then a future elevation? Do we do a drive-by? Is this something that is being kept quiet for right now until all the last minute details can be taken care of? Or is this something that as soon as we leave the meeting, it's being announced at court that night? No, so a lot of that does go on. In my experience, and my experience is much less than Sir Conal's, the Crowns have been very receptive when the polling results are told and the secretary says, we recommend this candidate or we do not recommend this candidate. I think that the Order of the Pelican has been very fortunate in that the Crowns have been so willing to respect our custom and traditions, and that the Pelican has then been able to work with the Crown when the Crown has someone that they obviously favor. And I think it's also been obvious in our discussions when we don't recommend someone as to why we do not yet recommend them. And to my knowledge, with the Pelican, it's never a matter of never. It's a matter of not yet.
Right. Right. I would have little to add to that. I will say, though, that when I've seen a candidate not go forward through our somewhat democratic process of recommendation, it's been pretty obvious from the comments that that candidate was not going to go forward or was going to be narrow, either way. I'm not a fan of narrow on a personal level. None of my people have ever been narrow, and maybe that's because I wait too long. I don't know, but listen, huh? Yeah, no, I have only recently been more narrow. Yeah, that's totally funny. Fat guys are funny. No, I guess what I mean is you can get caught up on your own candidate and their worth because you know them so well. You know what a good person they are. You know how hard they've tried, how they've come so far. But you gotta listen to your brothers and sisters because they'll tell you, you know, where your candidate is or where the perception is.
Mhm.
Okay. Normally here we start covering populist questions, but tonight we'd like to just bust some myths and cover some topics of choice. As such, we've pulled some of our favorites. How is Pelican level service defined? Is it from doing many things? Is it from doing one thing a lot? Does one need to demonstrate leadership with the service? Or is it just doing lots of work and showing leadership with it?
Yes. Each person's path is different. You know, how Conal made it to Pelican elevation is different from how I made it there, which is different from how Ulrich or Thomas made it there. We have members within our order who blazed through from joining the SCA to being elevated in 4 or 5 years. Hi, Mistress Mina. To folks who have been in the SCA for decades with a love and a focus on one particular aspect that they have shared with everyone in their local group, with everyone in the kingdom, with everyone that comes in contact with them, whether they're at Gulf Wars or Penzek. The gentleman that I was speaking of who was elevated for his work with archery is one example. And how we define service is very much not a checklist. It's very individualized for each member of the order. One of the things that I personally look for is how long have they been doing this, balanced by what is their level of leadership. Is this something that they have taught to others so that it can be carried on? Or have they done so many frickin' leadership positions that it's like, all right, sit down already, give the rest of us a chance. You know, service comes in so many different forms, and yes, I know I'm up to 2. And that's why it can be difficult to have a checklist and to define what this person should be meeting on a checklist. And that could be part of why Pelican meetings go on for so long, because we are discussing. We do have people who are arguing for they've done this, they've done this, they've done this, they've done this. And people who are arguing, yeah, but what about the leadership? What about the PLQs? So we do look at all of it. We do look at length of time. We do look at the amount of activity. And it's going to be a different answer for pretty much every member of the order.
Right. All of that. You mentioned a bunch of things that hit triggers in my head, but yeah, leadership, I think, is leadership sitting on a base of a lot of service is what we're looking for. The base of service is, and I'll drink in a minute because I'm talking, but the base of service is important. I mean, if you are more of a manager rather than a leader, And what I mean by that is that maybe you haven't washed a lot of dishes. Maybe you haven't, moved the chairs in the hall. Maybe you haven't moved the hay bales on the field. We may have noticed that. I don't ask people to do a job that I'm not willing to do myself. And sometimes I don't ask them because I can just do it. No, I'm serious.
You have
I'm
the
not,
heart of a pelican.
well, I will say this. I never shot for being a pelican. I almost never shot for being anything. Although the last 6 months of knighthood, I did shoot for knighthood. I just did the thing. I have a guilty conscience. I don't know why. Even if I've done nothing wrong, I have a guilty conscience. And I can't stand to watch. I've gotten better at it, but I can't stand to watch work going on when I might be needed in that work. The guilt gets to me.
Mm-hmm.
So we look for that base of service. We look for that leadership management, and then we look for are you gonna embarrass us? Are we gonna create a monster? And generally the answer to that is always no. There's very few monsters in the SCA. We tend to get rid of those eventually. But I'm lit up with coffee and a little bit of whiskey, and I've probably gone beyond my time. Yield the floor.
I think Conal has just hit on something, because I noticed that all three of us that weren't speaking were nodding with that idea of the guilty conscience. And I don't know that it's necessarily guilty conscience. I think it's that for those of us who do service, we do it because it needs to be done. We're not looking for a recognition. We're not looking for the cookie. We see something that needs to be done, and we simply step up and do it. And I would be willing to bet that most of the members of the Pelican would agree with that.
So I'm not going to try to present myself as a saint, because there's something in me that wants to be in charge of things. And I don't know that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but from the time I entered this organization, I looked over and saw, well, that guy's an autocrat and he ran this event. And he just came up with the entire idea for this event. I can do that. I want to do that. Well, that's feast cratting. I want to do that. Okay, I did that. I don't want to do that anymore. Earl Marshall. I like the rules. I wanted to be in charge of the rules. So I was Deputy Earl Marshal for 4 years under 2 Roberts. And, then I was eventually Earl Marshal. I just want to be in charge of things to serve and to, leave my mark on it. Because sometimes I feel like I have a better handle on things than others. I've gotten over that as time has passed. And no, I've totally gotten over that. Stop shaking your head, you sassy squire.
So you're Dr. Horrible? You just rule things.
Sure, boss, you've gotten over that.
Yeah. That's all I'm looking for is false sincerity.
I think Conal's attitude and mindset is a perfect setup for our next myth, Graf Ulrich.
Or not.
There you go. So in full disclosure, Sir Conal was my knight. And I'm very, very proud of that. All right. So one of my favorite ones. What was that, Thomas?
A wise and influential knight.
Don't make me tell that story. Don't make me tell where that
goes. No, we haven't got time. Wait
we'll
until
save
the
that for the after show. All right. So the first myth: all pelicans are evil. Okay. So actually, it's really just Kevin and sometimes me, but only when I'm forced to hold a greater society office. Maybe Roz, if you forget to put brandy in her coffee, or is that coffee in her brandy?
See, we can't really call you evil until you do the hat.
Oh, you're right. I forgot the hat. Just by the way, for the record, we cannot confirm nor deny that Roz puts coffee in her brandy or brandy in her coffee, whichever the case may be. But I can say this. If you ever get a chance to sit down with Roz for a little bit at an event, be it at a table or in a cabin, just hanging out and maybe having an adult beverage, I really suggest you do it. She is a blast. Mistress Ross, sorry.
So I have to ask, what exactly are we defining as evil?
So this is a Master Kevin question. We went to some Pelicans and got some myths that they heard, which is that we don't have fun. We don't, we're the ones who take the fun away from the SCA. We make them follow the rules and be good, and which is funny to me because he invoked both himself, who's very much a shenanigator, me of the devil horns, and Roz, who is like the queen of the shenanigans people, but which I think is part of his point, is to show that we're not really, we have rules and we have to follow them, but there are ways around them.
So I would absolutely agree with that. And I think our entire discussion so far proves the point that we know how to have fun. Thomas, you are too much of a teddy bear. I adore you, and you are too much of a teddy bear to be evil. It's not happening, dude.
There is actually a story. We'll tell that in the after show about me being the source of all evil.
Okay, if we have to.
It is true. He is the source of all evil.
So we can be hard-nosed. I have absolutely no problem owning that. When you are an autocrat, when you are a kingdom officer, when you are even a local officer or a society level officer, and Ulrich, you really need to stop putting your hand up. Why none of us chose helium hand as our word, I will never understand.
I didn't put my hand up.
Dude, you didn't say no.
Yeah, don't bogart the jobs, Ulrich.
That's not the same.
We can be hard-nosed. We know when to work because the work has got to be done. And we know how to have fun. And that would be one thing that I would advise all of the proteges out there who might be watching this or who might watch this in the future. You don't have to work every single minute of the time that you are on path to your peerage. Have fun. You deserve it. You're working hard. Have fun. And when it's time to hold a line, when you are holding that officer position and you know that the rules back you up, when you know that the kingdom officer above you backs you up, or when you know that the society officer above you backs you up, hold that line. Part of service as a Pelican is, how do we protect the society? How do we protect the populace of the society? And that might be where this view of Pelicans as evil comes from, is that we're willing to hold that line.
Right. So we're an organization of fun. We're basically a medieval theme party, but we're a medieval theme party with rules. And we have rules because somewhere along the way, mostly somewhere along the way, somebody messed up and put our organization at risk, or put the people in our organization at risk. Master William Montague, so that's 2 mentions tonight. Love that guy. Said one time at a feast, he said, if you would like, sometime I can sit down and go through corpora with you and point out these certain Duke that he mentioned, rules that are in there just for him. So
Michael Bedford.
That one. So you gotta obey the rules because you're putting the organization and its people at risk. If we're not evil, we're not good, we're mostly good, we're not all bad, but if we're backed into a corner and something is dangerous, we're not going to let that go past us. I mean, one of the going back to God, it's like the William Montague show here. Going back to the question that apparently was asked of how I benefited the society when I was coming up. brought up about a certain dangerous person that I assisted in gathering data on, and that person's no longer in this organization. So yeah, we can do some serious stuff, and we can count the beans, and the money's important, but we're not. We're not evil. We like to pretend we're evil. It's that whole, pelican eating the breast of something, but we're not evil. Let's totally the laurels. Hi, Thomas.
Hi. Listen, we're not going to bogart that title from the Pelican. Going to make sure they do all kinds of service and not delegate that responsibility.
Oh, I totally thought this whiskey was my coffee. Oh, that was a mistake. Shep, this is probably the best Christmas present you've ever given me, and it's getting better all the time.
All right. So the next myth I had picked out to be busted was that the peerage orders, and I mean, this honestly goes for all of them, the peerage orders can overrule the crown.
No.
Nope.
No. It's as simple as that. It's in corpora. Crown has.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Annora. I'm sorry. I'm going to poll 3 out of 3 former Kingdom Seneschals and ask if the orders can overrule the crown, and the answer is no.
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 All right.
I've never been a Seneschal, and my feelings are hurt.
Former Kingdom or Marshal, would you like to chime in?
No, not particularly. Other than I hurt that I've never been to Kingdom Seneschal. But
volunteered to be Mitten's replacement deputy.
Nor wasn't done. I was just getting your answer to that poll.
I happen to know your name was on a short list, Conal.
Yeah, I know that too. Anyway,
so no.
No.
By corpora, the crown has authority to elevate, to recognize, to award anyone that they recognize.
To punish.
That too.
Yeah, we orders don't have any of that power.
No, we don't. And in Meridies, we have a long-standing tradition. It's not a rule. I'm not Jewish. Hush. It's not a rule. It's not kingdom law. It's not in corpora. But we have a long-standing tradition in Meridies that the crown consults the members of their orders, whether it's a peerage order or an order of high merit, as to whether the current members of those orders feel that someone is ready and demonstrates all of the characteristics that are typically recognized by that order. So fortunately, we have been blessed that the crowns in Meridies usually respect that tradition and listen to the advice and consultation offered by their orders and are willing to work with us on, okay, well, what does this person need to bring them up to the level where they can be recognized?
So quick point of order. I think you just got some words reversed. The corpora requires the consultation. In Meridies, we have a tradition of polling.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you that. You are such a rules lawyer.
Sorry,
evil.
It was a big thing. It was a
evil.
big thing.
Evil. There you go. Evil.
To be fair, he just barely beat me off the line on that one. So.
And both of you served as Kingdom Seneschal before me, so I bow down to my elders.
I was going to totally Pelican nerd that one too. So,
Conal, what were you going to say on this subject?
nothing. No, seriously, she's got it dead on right. I mean, other than that minor quibble that we just had that, was totally out of corpora. No, she's got it dead on right. I was busy defending myself against calls for the Mina thing.
Oh, you'd make such a good deputy.
Yeah,
That'd be
no.
awesome.
And your lady wife agrees with you. No. You, I could totally see talking into it and bullying it. Her, I am not.
She's screaming no from the other room.
She has just recently had total knee replacement, and above and beyond that, she's an awesome lady. I'm not poking that bear.
Yeah, she's tougher.
All right.
Yeah.
So I want to get one more populous question in, if that's okay, before we get to the live feed questions. We have some really good ones tonight.
Yeah.
So, and that is the ever popular, and we get this for every order. This is actually a combination of two questions. We have voting blocks, and B, we are monolithic, that we all think the same. So literally, these are two different myths that cannot both be possible at the same time. We cannot both have voting blocks and be monolithic at the same time.
No.
But for the record, monolithic, I mean we all speak as one.
Right.
Okay, so we're not monolithic, but oh my God, there have been some love fests when it comes to some of the candidate discussions. And we are still not monolithic because everybody feels like they have to say the exact same thing in slightly different words.
Or the same.
Or nearly the exact same words. And no, we don't have voting blocks. We don't have people who get together ahead of time and say, this person totally deserves it. We need to get 4, 5, 6 of us together. Or this person totally doesn't deserve it. We need to get 4, 5, 8 of us together. No. Even within something like a household, whether it's Gewaltoffen or Wayfair, I know that there are times that I have voted against my own household.
Right on.
I know that there are times that I have voted against people that I love and adore and consider to be friends. And there are absolutely times that I have voted right along with my household or with friends. Everyone votes their own thought, their own opinion, their own heart. And that's not something that can be a voting block or monolithic, even with the love fests that we sometimes have.
So I would add to that coming from an initial peerage of an activity that occurred in one place, going to the Pelican and judging activities that occurred everywhere. Fighting occurs in one place. If I'm on the field, I see the fighting. If I'm on the field, I see everybody who's contributing to the fighting. I see the melees, I see the wars, I see it. It's right there. Service happens everywhere. And that was hard as a guy. Oh, the service thing. Right. It's a stupid game. Anyway, as a guy who was plugged into the scene on the field and knew I got you guys and knew what was going on and had an opinion about every damn thing that was going on. It was hard to go into another order where they say so and so is great at Scribble and they're doing this lovely stuff. I'm like, I don't go. I haven't been there. I don't know this person. So I would have to rely on the opinions of people that I respected, and that can look. And please don't think that means that there are a lot of Pelicans that I disrespect. That's not true. The ones I knew well, and that can look like a voting block. But along with what Annora said, I know that I have voted against my friends who are on that list when I just disagreed with them. as far as a block goes, I'm not going to say that Pelicans don't reach out to their friends, or Knights don't reach out to their friends and say, hey, I'm going to bring so-and-so up. What do you think? But it's not a matter of they say, hey, I'm going to bring so-and-so up, and no matter what you think about him, I want your support. They say, what do you think? And if somebody says, no, that guy's the devil, that's going to be a speed bump. So I don't think we're monolithic. I don't think we are secret cabals of blocks. But I think that there's no doubt the people who think similar to you are going to generally vote similar to you, but occasionally going to find yourself at strong odds with them.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we're going to move into the questions that are asked in the live chat, and we're going to start off with a question from Master William Scribner. Do you find the Pelican to be unique due to so much of what gets recognized happens behind the scenes, and the best work is often done making things run seamlessly?
I don't know that I necessarily consider the Pelican unique. We are part of the society, and the society would not exist without the chivalry. It wouldn't exist in the way that it is without the laurel. And I don't think that we would exist as the society that we are without the Pelican or without the mod. I think each peerage is important because of what they bring to the society overall. At the same time, I think the fact that so much of what is done behind the scenes makes it often difficult to recognize people and to offer them the recognition that they deserve. I don't know about any other kingdom in the known world, but in Meridies, our crown often calls upon the populace to write letters. Recognize the people around you, recognize the people that you see, because the crown cannot be everywhere and cannot see everything that is done. And that is especially true for those who are doing service.
Yeah. And those letters, like we said earlier, those letters do come to us, and we discuss those in the meeting. So if there's something that's going on behind the scenes that we're missing, because service does happen everywhere, and that's two. Fire horse pottery mugs make everything taste better.
I don't know. I might have to give a shout out to the Ravens.
Oh, yeah. So
Absolutely.
Those are great mugs. My Laurel wife can tell you, when you're tipsy, never take one into the porta-john and expect it to sit on the not level surface. They will go in the drink, and they're unrecoverable. And they do make a funny noise the next day when the guys are doing the big suction thing.
Oh.
Feed the Ravens. All right. So, yeah, totally happened. But as far as Scrivener's question goes, I do think that of the orders, the Pelican is most likely to happen to have, the thing that we are judged on going on in a place where not all of us see. However, there's a lot of us in the circle, and somebody's seen it. If somebody brings it up and says, "Hey, I don't really know what goes on in." God, I'm picking on the scribes and the scribal. There's going to be a dozen or so who go, "Oh yeah, scribal, yeah, she's a bomb." So, service is seen. I jokingly sometimes say that there's a performance. Stupid game. That there is a performance art aspect of some service. I don't actually mean that you should go out there. I'm going to drink in a minute. Give me a break. I don't actually mean you should go out there and do service just to be seen doing service. But I'm on 3. I know I can count. That, but it doesn't hurt if if you're doing something that is more visible. I mean, I was the Earl Marshal of the Kingdom. That's pretty visible. And in those days, people read Pop Shiv, and I wrote letters. So it certainly doesn't hurt to be doing service in an area where it is more visible.
Damn you,
Y'all
Thomas.
Y'all have totally distracted me, and I'm going to just drink a lot to get over it.
For the record, I want to get out there that Conal did more than just be Kingdom or Marshal. He autocrated countless events, held countless offices, but that's another thing. All right, so moving on.
I like being in charge.
It's
like mini pelicans.
So, do you think that elevation is the end of the journey?
Oh God, no!
Your elevation is the end of the journey. That's from Her Ladyship Victoria of Durham.
I cannot claim that this is my thought. Someone much wiser than me, somewhere within Meridies, possibly within the SCA as a whole, stated that elevation is not the end of the journey. Elevation is the beginning. When you become a peer, if your head is screwed on right, we all know those folks. You suddenly find yourself realizing, oh, hell, what have I done? And now I have to live up to this. Because for those of us who truly understand what that recognition means, you've now got an entire new set of standards and expectations that you are holding yourself to. It's no longer about, can I reach the top of the mountain? It's about, how the hell do I cross this ridge, reach that next peak, make sure that the people who are following me are equipped for their journey, and what's my next challenge? So no, elevation is not the end of the journey. Once you reach your elevation, you find yourself recognizing that your entire path to peerage was only the first step.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, Victoria, 1980 South Down, shout out. Good to hear from you. No, actually, so when I was announced for the elevation, when I was elevated, I was asleep in court at a border raids and felt smelling foul and covered in sweat. And they said, "Hey, wake up! You just got called up by the Pelican." And I was like, "No, no!" And in fact, I had. And
Your
so
words
they asked
were,
me.
"Holy shit!"
That was my words, correct. And so when they got me up there, they said, "Hey, they had a meeting and they want to know if you want to be a Pelican." And I just sat there like, because what I was thinking, it was, crap, that was a lot of work. I don't know if I'm kind of burned out. I don't know if I can take this. I mean, to the point where Countess Elwyn, who was doing some of the talking, was like, and I said, yes. And she went, "Oh my God." Like, literally. So no, it's certainly not the end. It's the end of part of the journey. I mean, yeah, I'm a Pelican. Now I can make little service clones like me. Which, by the way, none of them are ever like you. But it just is like being a knight. When you put the white belt on, wow, here come all the guys to kick your butt. When you become a Pelican, you feel like, I'm just not doing enough, and if I take a breather, I'm not going to be doing enough. But you kind of reach a steady state and a balance with that over time. I hear. So that's my answer. What I had, like 2 services into that? Oh, 3.
3.
What do we got here left? Okay, some beer. Hey, out of Firehorse Pottery.
You've got an entire bottle of Basil Hayden there.
Oh,
You
do
must be
not,
here.
sister. Do not. Why, yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Nothing says Christmas like blotto on a Monday night.
And it's so smooth.
It's so good, Chip. It's so good. All right.
One of the hot topics right now is advocacy. How do you advocate for your proteges in council? This is submitted by Rhys Baird out of the West Kingdom.
Reese. Conal, I'm going to have to defer to you because even though I have associates, I have not yet advocated for one in the order.
Okay, so this is a Richard Rafin thing, who was my knight, and I got it from him. The fact is, I don't advocate for my associates. What I do is wait until 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, of my brothers or sisters come to me. Is it 5 for you, Ulrich? I don't have a set number.
You see,
I
5 is
investigate.
what I've heard for the knights.
Yeah, it's not a hard and fast thing for me, but I'll tell you, 2 is shakier. When you get 3, it pretty much goes to 5 or more. But I don't advocate for them. When I reach that number, when I reach that feeling, I come before the circle and say, here's my person. What do you think? And then I listen. And generally by that time, you get an overwhelming opinion one way or the other. And I have been fortunate enough to have extraordinarily good associates that I've brought up, and they have generally always been overwhelming. Now, does that mean that I missed a chance in advocating for those associates a year or 2 beforehand and could have gotten them passed by 1 vote? I'm not a 1 voter. Richard Rafin wasn't a 1 voter. 1 voters can make good peers, but it is my experience watching those discussions, they can hurt an order. So I'm more of a, hey, let's do an avalanche on my guy. Yay, avalanche.
All right, so we're not going to get to all the live feed questions because we're getting close to being out of time. But if you want to come to the after show, we'll answer as many as we can there. There's probably going to be a follow-up bonus show for the Pelicans, like there is for the Shiv and the Laurel, and we'll try to get to anything we didn't answer tonight on those.
Now it's time for our parting statements. Are there anything that we missed that you two would like to cover?
I think we've had a really good discussion considering everything that I thought Mistress Stephanie covered last week.
There's always more.
There is. And as we have demonstrated, Pelicans do like to talk.
Yeah, and we don't want to bogart all the answers.
Oh.
But I got one. Yeah, I do. I've got one. It is more of an SCA life philosophy. I had a great discussion with Duke John the Bear Killer. You might have heard of him. Once a long time ago, when we were actually in the process of kicking out a dangerous person. And he said, just apologize. Just apologize. I've done 7 things that should get me kicked out of the society. And I've apologized and I've meant it. He said, just, look at what you've done, apologize and change. It's that easy. And it's the people who can't apologize that are sometimes trouble. And, either because, I don't know, an obtuseness, flaw in their character, the fact that they're just going to die on a hill that nobody else thinks is worth dying for. Those are the ones who can cause you problems. So just apologize. God knows I've done enough to apologize for, and I've tried to do that.
I want to add an addendum to that, though, because I think the real dangerous people in this society are the ones who do apologize but never change. Because you said apologize and change, and that change is the important thing.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Amen.
Fair enough.
And I
And,
think that
uh,
goes along with what Conal was saying earlier about learning to ask for help.
Yeah.
You know, I think it goes to recognizing when you are in a position where you personally have messed up. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. You've simply messed up. And what is going to be best for, oh, puppy snout. What is going to be best for my event, my group, my kingdom, my society? I can make myself look bad if it means that everything else is going to work out the way it's supposed to. And what many people don't realize, especially with our American culture, is that takes a special kind of courage to be able to say, I screwed the F up, but I don't want everything to fail because I screwed up. So, how do we fix it? My bad, mea culpa, I am so sorry. And how do we fix it?
Right on. And the host has unmuted my mic. Good, because we were having chaos in here. Another thing I would add is if you want to do something, if you want to serve, it is a-okay to contact an officer, to contact a deputy officer, to contact a Pelican. The serve thing. Hang on. And tell them, look, I'm interested in that. I'd like to help. I remember when I was Earl Marshal, there was this, punk-faced little kid named Thomas Blackmoore or something like that, who said, "Hey, I don't know if you got anything for me, but I could do this. I could serve in the marshalate. If you think of anything, let me know. I'm your guy." And I remember lamenting to my wife Gwendolyn that how can I ever get any marshalate stuff done when I have to do all of these reports and compile all of these reports? And she said, "You're an idiot. You should do what the other officers do and have a deputy who compiles those reports and sends them to you." She said, "What about that Thomas kid? He would do a good job at that." And I was like, "Yes, he would." So
Were you delegated?
I delegated, but I wouldn't. Oh, 5. But I wouldn't have delegated if I didn't have somebody in mind who could do that kind of service. So, and I in deference to and in praise of Duke Thomas, he did a great job. That was a huge burden lifted for me, and his reports were excellent. Thomas,
All right.
again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So now we're into the shout out section. Are there any shows that you guys are watching or anyone doing great stuff for the kingdom that you'd like to point out? Or anything that you'd like? Read this book. Whatever you happen to have.
I've got to give a shout out to Hound and Stag. You guys have been utterly fantastic in, you started out looking at fighting because, you're a couple of knights and fighters. It's what you do. But you found a need within the kingdom to address questions and allow members of the populace to kind of peek behind the curtain. And I think this has been a fantastic way to share with the populace what they don't always get a chance to see.
Right on. Shout out wise, I remain a big fan of the people who are making the virtual stuff go on, because guys, I hate virtual life.
Jessica?
Yeah, you took my words. Jessica Sheffield, who never, Jessica Fosbury, who I am not aware has ever failed a job and is just top notch in every way. And I know you're listening, Jessica. and I mean it. And Ellen DeLacy, whenever I've had interactions with her online, just a pro. And I really appreciate that. Other shout outs is I really like Warrior on HBO Max. You should catch that. And if I haven't mentioned it before, Firehorse Pottery for all your pottery needs.
Feed the ravens, share the love.
Share the love, but don't drop it in a porta john.
And I
She's right
cannot.
there.
I am so sorry that wow, we actually heard Gwynvin's sigh. I am so sorry that I cannot remember his name, but his lady wife, Christine. If anybody has any of Christine's ceramics to share, yay, go Jessica. This is why we love you.
Yes. I saw those words too. There were words. You guys couldn't see them at home, but there were words. So
she can see them. They can see them.
They can see them.
Anything?
Okay, fine. They could see them.
You know,
I didn't know that.
It's a mundane thing, but well, support your merchants. There are websites out there, Facebook out there. Merchants are having an absolutely horrible time with the pandemic. The people who do the art show circuits, especially our merchants, they make so much of their money. Most of their income comes from doing these events that haven't happened in a year. So find your favorite merchant and support them if you can.
Yeah, totally.
And just a mundane thing, Blown Away, the glass blowing competition show is on Netflix. They just released season 2. It's amazing. And unlike most reality shows, there's not a lot of excess drummed up drama that they just make up. It's just watching artisans do amazing things in a very short
show.
Right on. To add on to what you said, Thomas, I'm totally getting my coffee from Odyssey Coffee these days because you know the feelings of a cold Gulf Wars morning and sitting shoulder to shoulder in that tent with my product from the bakery and drinking Odyssey Coffee just makes me want to burst into tears right here. So support your merchants.
Drogo Coffee in Atlanta is who I'm trying to get mine through. So.
So I've got like four or five. First, I want to hit both the Meridian Bardic and the Calentier Bardic. Those are great things on Friday nights if you want to catch some Bardic stuff. Between Two Piers on Friday nights is great. Coach's Corner, if you can catch them on early on Friday evenings, is some fantastic stuff for the fighters out there. So I understand that one of the shows, Between Two Piers, is going to have a couple of Meridians on it. They had a couple of Meridians on it this past Thursday, and this coming Thursday.
It's not Between Two Piers. It's
no, I'm sorry. Ask the Knights. Yeah, Ask the Knights. We'll have Duke Thomas and Count Bart on it this Thursday night. It'll be right after our bonus show for the Chivalry. So watch those things. All those groups are doing great stuff. Especially Between Two Piers and the Coach's Corner and the Ask the Knight stuff. It's some great stuff. So catch that if you can.
I'm kind of scared. I don't know what to expect from that one, so it'll be fun.
You guys will talk about corkscrewing.
All right.
It's a thing.
I'm having flashbacks from that. We'd like to thank our guests, Dame Annora and Sir Conal, for joining us. We'd also like to thank Her Ladyship, Jessica of Osprey, who is perfect in all things and fantastic, for her graphics and show running magic. Her Excellency Katerina for keeping us on time, and Mistress Adriana for helping us with script writing and flow. Lord Kikachu for technical consulting, but most importantly, you, the populace, and our audience.
You guys really don't know how hard it is to keep us on time. It is really hard. All right, so join us Thursday for our first bonus episode, The Chivalry Continued, where we'll cover the stuff that we didn't get to in the last Chivalry episode. Probably going to be bonus episodes for the Laurel and the Pelican in the future, too, because there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to on both of them. Anyway, we'll be joined Thursday by Sir Jostrib Desislavich and Sir Manon Leon. We'll discuss more of those myths. Then join us next week where we'll have our final show in the Peerages series, which will be called Defense. We'll be joined by Baroness
Isabelle de Saint Croix.
Thank you. I'm not even.
Yes, you spoke French.
Academia. Anyway, and Nicholas Hildebrand, Master of Defense.
If you're watching live and you'd like to join us after the show for a chat or to hang out, then watch the Helm and Stag main page or the comments of this show for the link to the Zoom. We'll take a little break, and then at about 5 minutes after this show goes off the air, Beth and Katerina will post a link to the Zoom, and we'll hang out and chat for about half an hour.
Finally, if you're watching the replay on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe down here. Or if you're watching on Facebook, like up here. It helps us, helps the algorithms and gets us more viewers. All right, that's it. Good night, everybody.
And if I die in battle, tomorrow I will be home, though it's 70 days march to there from Rome. But a soul travels swiftly on the night wind, and if I die in battle, I'll be home again.